Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. Bark is a four-letter word. This is the first official episode. It's an interview that I did with a friend of mine, Katie Mchenry, who is now Katie Schlecker, is her new married name. Congratulations on that, Katie. I had a lot of fun talking with her. It was a great interview. It was really fun. Katie's a really awesome person. Really interesting story about her that I think you guys will appreciate. So bear with me on the audio quality. Still working out some kinks with that. Still learning how to do this. And my interview skills are a little suspect. There was one point in the interview where I interrupted something that she was getting ready to say that was probably going to be really interesting for sake of keeping things chronological, which I now look back and realize was a mistake. I should have just shut up and let her talk. So, in the essence of me shutting up and letting her talk, here's the podcast. I hope you guys enjoy it. Welcome, everybody. This is Bark is a four-letter word, the podcast that we are today learning about my friend here, Katie Mchenry, who is a doctor in
Towson, Connecticut.
Okay,
Yeah,
Connecticut.
so northern Connecticut.
Northern Connecticut. And you primarily practice?
Mostly small animal.
Okay.
So that encompasses dogs, cats. I kind of fell into exotics recently, but it's a mixed animal practice. So anything that walks in the door, we'll treat.
Okay,
So
cool. That's
pretty
fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
Okay. So my main purpose of this whole interview process is I want to figure out how you got into veterinary medicine. So
Okay.
like, what's the youngest where you said, I want to be a veterinarian?
Yeah. So
If you know.
yeah.
If you can remember.
Yeah, I think I'm in the minority with that one because I wasn't one of those kids that always wanted to be a vet.
Oh, cool.
It's kind of weird. So I never not wanted to be a vet. It wasn't that I was like afraid of it or didn't like it. But for a long time, I thought I wanted to be a zookeeper. So for like my whole childhood. So it wasn't honestly until I think I was 21 that it like hit me like a ton of bricks.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So wanted to be a zookeeper. Were you is the generation of Steve Irwin? Was that what kind of brought you into that? Or
A little.
because that's me. That was like, I wanted to be Ace Ventura and Steve Irwin. However, I could do that.
Yeah, Ace Ventura was actually.
I like really be.
That's about right for us. It's probably why we're friends. But
Yeah, right.
yeah, we were. Ace Ventura shaped my life. No, I watched that a lot. Don't get me wrong, but what really I think shaped it was for some reason I just really liked wildlife. I loved it as a kid. I liked going to the zoo. I liked the thought of helping animals who couldn't survive without people, because I think the scary thing is sometimes we affect survival of animals in a bad way on a global scale, right?
Sure.
So knowing that maybe I could impact the reversal of that.
Okay.
Help them,
So
hopefully,
you and I understand that pretty well. Expand on that a little bit on what you were just saying, like, how we may negatively impact that kind of survival of things by trying to help. But we're
Yeah,
not actually helping. So
Right.
maybe-
yeah. So, I don't want to get like too political or weird because that can be touchy, but
Who'd you vote for in the last?
yeah. So I guess, for example, my thought is, my mind goes immediately to the environment.
Okay.
Fires in Australia.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That's a real hot topic. I mean, that's not a hot topic. Poor choice of words. Okay. Let's start this out. No.
Right.
That's a big one.
Yeah, so something like that, was it created by man? Was it a natural disaster? They're still kind of sorting it out, I guess. But that's a pretty extreme example. But
Okay.
so something like that, all the way to destroying the rainforests, habitat destruction, because we need to build stuff.
Right.
We need to expand our own homes or whatever. Or even to what you and I see every day is people well-intentioned, like rescue groups trying to help, and like
Or
sometimes-
hoarders.
or hoarders,
We
right?
always
Yeah, that's a better.
start off with the best of intentions.
Yeah,
Like a hoarder, 20 years before they have 1,000 animals, had 2, and just wanted to help one more. You just want to, and I think that's a common misconception when it comes to like hoarding and rescuing is like, they most of the time really have good intentions, unfortunately.
Right. Absolutely.
So you can't fault them for that. It's just poor execution. Sometimes, who knows the level of, mental health issues that go along with that, putting themselves into denial. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think the average person wants to do the right thing and does the right thing, but sometimes it just goes in the wrong direction a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think as vets, we have a big role with kind of guiding them back on track.
Yeah, big responsibility.
Yes,
Yeah.
Pretty intense, but.
No matter how much they think we're just doing it just because.
Right.
Like, we're trying to do the best thing for you and your dog and everything else.
Absolutely. Yeah. It can be tricky and, hairy, no pun intended. But it can be hard to navigate. But I think that's kind of a role that I've always wanted to be or play or whatever, however you want to say it, is maybe get back on track, help people, but also help animals and do it the right way. And it's kind of vague, but.
Yeah, I think that's something else that I think that people getting into veterinary medicine don't really realize is a big portion of our job and our responsibility is helping people.
Yes.
Absolutely.
As
soon as we get into vets, we're like, I got into vet medicine. I think people are gross and I hate people. It's like, well, that's a lot of what you have to help and guide and being a big part of is you're not just helping the animals.
Yeah.
You're enabling people and helping the animals.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest part of our job most of the time.
Yeah.
And the most rewarding too, but.
When it goes right, there's nothing better.
Yeah. When you help somebody navigate through kind of a sticky situation or, should I do surgery or medical management and money comes into play and the rest of their life affects their decision. It's not just, can my dog do this and can I afford it? Or it's, well, my kid needs this, or I'm selling my house, or I'm in a bankruptcy. Things happen. And helping people navigate that will still, ultimately, our job is to advocate for that animal.
Sure.
Ultimately, we've got to be that voice, but you've got to be really open to that person's life too.
Yeah.
So we become a lot more of like a coach sometimes, or like a.
It's funny you say that. I had a client, I was, taking them through it was time that their dog needed to be put down. It was paralyzed, it was in excruciating pain. There wasn't more we could do for the dog that was really beneficial for the dog. We maybe could have band-aided things just to keep them around.
Yeah.
But we had all come together and decided it was time to put the dog down. And then the owner said, okay, can we schedule this for tomorrow? I loaded him up with pain meds so we can just be comfortable in the short term. And she said, okay, but can we come a little early so that you can talk to my son? And I was like, do you mind talking to him?
Right.
It's your kid. Like, I don't know your parenting style, and
right.
And so I didn't say that. I said, sure. And I think she wanted me to. Well, I don't know what her intentions were, but all I did was take him through kind of what the process was and how peaceful it was, and I coached him on that kind of stuff. Where it's the way she worded the question, I can't remember exactly. It was more of a, do you mind counseling my son a little bit on this?
Right.
I was like, I don't feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got kids, but
right.
that's your, I don't want to step on any parenting toes and stuff like that.
Right. Or word something that they're not comfortable with, or
right.
Like quality of life discussion with that child is a lot more intimidating. Yeah.
It's hard enough with an adult.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. And I wonder, does being a parent influence how you see that? Because I'm not a parent.
Oh man.
I wonder if I guess it's hard to say because you weren't a parent when you were not that
right.
It's been dead.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Well, because I was in the room as a tech, so maybe not as a doctor before I was a parent.
Right. That's
true. I was able to kind of be there for that. Honestly, what I always end up going back to whenever I'm doing a euthanasia in a room and there are kids in there, all I can do is think of, I'm like, the idea that I really don't want to go through this with my kids.
Yeah.
Because, it's just going to be tough.
Yeah.
We lost our dog not too long ago, but it's because she passed away. It was, kind of an emergency thing. So it was a little bit easier on them because we could say she got real sick. She went downhill real fast.
we weren't deciding to do anything. Something happened.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a lot
She
easier.
made the decision kind of.
Yeah, it made it a little bit easier. But yeah, I don't know. I struggle with it still.
Yeah.
You know, just thinking about it. Anytime there's kids in the room, I'm like, what do I do? What's the right age? Because I've got, you know, my oldest is almost 7. And I've got a 5-year-old and 2.5-year-old twins. And, you know, who should be there when, at what age?
Yeah.
When should we let them make the decision?
Yeah.
There's no right answer.
Right. It's
Oh.
just tough.
It's not gonna be easy either way. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so want to be a zookeeper?
Yeah.
Everything dies in veterinary medicine. No. Wanting to be a zookeeper? Yeah, we always take that. Weeping. No. Wanted to be a zookeeper, and then around 21, what happened?
Confidence.
Started drinking. Okay.
Yeah, you know, some weird nights. Turned into a hooker. No. Yeah, so honestly, it all kind of was this year of like, I guess it happens at different times for different people, but I finally kind of, what's the word?
Oh, wait.
Like looked inward.
Okay. No, you got introspective. I don't want to lose that thought.
Yeah.
But I just realized I'd rather, like, scholastically, were you
Oh, yeah.
science major, like doing that, you know, what got you to 21 and change your mind?
Oh, yeah,
I'm more
good
curious
point.
about that. Or what did you do in school?
Yeah, yep. So I went to school in Baltimore, Maryland. The reason I bring that up is Towson University, which had a very weird major. It's called animal behavior.
Huh.
And it sounds like voodoo, like I'm going to hypnotize your pet or something, but it's a legit major. But what it is it looks more at the evolutionary basis for animal behavior. So, like, of course,
Why
like,
they have the behaviors they do?
yeah, so survival mode,
Instincts.
yeah, and a lot of like breeding behaviors, migratory behaviors. And so it kind of gave me that perspective with like, it's kind of cool. It's definitely shaped how I see a sick dog or something. But basically, so I majored in that. And then at 21, I was trying to decide whether I was going to go more of a psychology route and go more into like teaching and conservation, maybe education, or if I was going to go the more biology, medical route with that and go more, maybe still into research, but more of still conservation, but maybe more of like a sciencey, go in a zoo, do research, be a zookeeper. I don't know. So like, so there's definitely overlap, but
Right.
the psych versus bio. And I was like, well, if I do bio, that opens up the doors for more medical stuff. But if I go more psych, that's probably going to be more in the education system, is kind of how it boiled down.
Okay.
Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
It was kind of how they guided you in school. And so, and also what hit me was after like working in zoos and externing, it's one of those jobs where you work really, really hard. And because it's really hard to get a job as a keeper, especially if you want to work with primates, like that was my area of interest of all things was primates. And some of the areas are more competitive than others. So you have to fight really hard to get a position. You're limited geographically. And once you get in, and I don't mean to like trash the profession because it's an incredible one, but I realized it wasn't for me because it can just be a little bit hard to move up, you know what I mean, to get in and make change because there's so many rules that are meant to protect the animals. So I just felt like maybe I'd be more limited long term, and I don't know if I would have been happy not being able to continuously grow. And also being limited where exactly I could work, being married to a guy in the Navy. Like, he's already limited, so. There were just a few things that came into play at that point. We weren't married then, but there was a lot career-wise, and would I still feel satisfaction doing that job long-term? Would I feel like there's too much red tape? I don't know.
The building was crashing.
Yeah, I guess so. But probably a really big trash. And so basically I just kind of rewound and was like, well, I'd be happy doing this. And maybe I would have, I don't know. But I just saw a lot of limits that maybe wouldn't suit me personally. And so I really sat down and thought, and I'd always had being a vet in the back of my mind. I grew up working for vets on their farms and going on ride-alongs. Like a mentor of mine was more like a family friend, you know? So it was always there. But all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, well, maybe I could be a vet. And I I lacked confidence big time. It's still something I struggle with. I mean,
Okay.
maybe a lot of vets do, the whole imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
So-
did you do any zoo externships during that time?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Where'd you?
Philly Zoo was a big one.
Okay.
That was it was an incredible zoo. It's awesome. A little bit at a tiny place in Plumpton Park. It's Plumpton Park Zoo. I visited, kind of dabbled. But another one is actually through Johns Hopkins. So it was with primates, but not really zoo.
Cool.
It was more the researchy side. So not a ton of places, but
Now, to clarify, when you say primate research, you're not talking about testing, animal testing.
correct. So not what I was doing.
Right. So what kind of things were they doing at like Johns Hopkins?
What I was there for there were colonies of primates who, so eventually they were going to be in research, but that was not my place. I was just there for enrichment. So make their lives better until they were research subjects. So to clarify, yeah. So I would do things like target training and teaching them tricks and building enrichment for their enclosures so that they could learn and be more active and have a lifestyle that kind of mimicked what they would do wherever they're from.
Okay.
It was really fun.
Cool.
It was
That's
really
awesome.
cool. Yeah, it was hard knowing that their future wasn't going to be enrichment in that, but
Right.
they were a lot happier for the however long they were with me.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Cool.
But, yeah, but then I kind of sat down and thought, and I actually talked to a professor of mine and then a really good friend of mine who was a vet. At the time, I think she was a fourth year, I think. I want to say, yeah. And now she's a few years ahead of me, but I sat down and just talked really candidly with her. I was like, I'm thinking about doing this vet thing, but I don't know if I can do it. And she's like, you're being an idiot. She was like, you can. You just have to work really hard. She's like, if you work hard and you want it bad enough, you can do this. You have the compassion for it and the drive. Just believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
it just woke me up. I'm like, oh, you don't have to be an expert. You just have to be really willing to apply yourself and just be dedicated. I can do that. Like,
Yeah. I mean, hell of a drive. It takes.
yeah.
You have to be head down and bowling forward to get into and through vet school. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Like there's a lot to it for sure. It takes a lot more than, XYZ, but I think it was just realizing that in general, like you don't have to be a genius to do anything, but you just have to, you just have to work really, really hard.
Yeah.
And that kind of woke me up, and that's what led me to it, was just that little nudge saying like, yeah, try it.
And was that when you were about 21 when you talked to her?
Yep.
Okay. So
Yep.
had you graduated college yet?
No.
Okay.
Funny story. I think that was like 3.5 years into a 4-year degree, something like that. And I was kind of teetering on that split that I was talking about. So I ended up staying in school for another 1.5 years. So I was like turning into Van Wilder.
Yeah, right.
Not that bad, but it got to the point I took so many credits because I had to catch up a little bit, adding in some of those bio classes that I'd been putting off.
Yeah, the prereqs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting a letter my last semester while I was like, had been accepted to vet school. I just had to finish up a couple of classes. I got a letter from my school saying, like, you've maxed out the number of credits. I don't think that you could do that, but they're like,
Really?
Yeah, they're like very politely like, bye-bye.
This isn't a career. This is what you do to get the career.
Right.
You don't just stay in school.
Yeah. It's like, oh, well, okay, I guess I'll move on now. But I saved that letter with my acceptance to vet school letter.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
You've done too much.
You've done too
Okay. You're an overachiever.
I was like, I just really want to make sure I get into vet school, taking classes. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's how
Cool.
it happened. It was kind of a revelation late in life.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because that's one of the things I wanted to highlight with these interviews in the podcast was that there's the very stereotypical wanted to be a vet since a little kid, went to school, good grades, did, high school, undergrad, vet school, doctor. Like that's a lot of veterinarians are that way, but there's so many that have these other backgrounds.
Oh, yeah.
Weird, just different
Absolutely.
and stuff like that. So, where were you when you found out you got accepted?
That's a great question. I was sitting on the recliner, like kicked out watching, oh gosh, it's some stupid American Ninja Warrior with my parents. So I was living at home because it's my last semester. I was commuting to school.
Okay.
And I was sitting there, and I had interviewed at a couple schools, but my first one that I heard back from was Louisiana State. Loved it there.
Okay.
It's a great place, very welcoming, great school. But I I opened up my laptop, I'm like, I'll just see. And I saw it, and I just stared at it for a long time before I realized what it said.
Yeah. The email from LSU?
Yeah.
Okay.
Email, yeah.
Cool.
So they sent that, or was it email? Yeah, it was an email. But yeah, that's where I was with my parents. And I just like, did like that creepy like, I remember looking at my
Your pigtails sprouted. You were like a little girl again.
exactly. Yeah. So dorky to be like, that's with my parents. But that's where I was.
So how was school in Louisiana?
I don't remember.
So what did you find out you were going to Virginia, Maryland?
Yeah.
Virginia Tech.
Yep.
Let's say Virginia Tech.
I was actually at work. I was working in Baltimore as an vet assistant.
Okay.
And I found out on lunch break. And that's when I was like, holy crap. Because, I really wanted to go to Virginia, Maryland. Like, I wanted to go there as in-state school, first of all, which influences things. You can't ignore that. But I wanted to go to Tech. So that I knew I was going to school already, but then the joy of going there.
Yeah, so you got that weight off your shoulders. Okay, I'm going somewhere. I'm
Yeah.
going to vet school.
Right.
And then you got into the school you wanted to.
Yeah,
That's
that was
awesome.
like kick your heels together. Yeah.
Okay. What time did you get your email?
What time?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
But
It was, LSU was, I think, around like 8 or 9. Whenever Ninja Warrior is on that Spike TV channel, which might be all the
we'll have to
time.
look back. What time did you find
Yeah,
out?
it's always on there. So, but it was like 10 o'clock at night, something like that.
Okay.
And then Tech, it was around noon or 1. So
Okay.
like middle of the day, scrubs. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I remember Dr. Pelzer
Yeah.
telling us, I think it was her, she said, you're going to get your acceptance letter on this day. The emails are going to go out on this day.
Yeah.
If you got it in, you'll get an email by the end of that, whatever that day was. I can't remember.
That does sound familiar. Yeah.
I was with my mentor, Dr. Dean,
Yeah.
down in Miami, and it was 11:30 p.m. on that day, and I hadn't yet received it, and then so the whole day, we were doing some work down there, on a boat of his, and then we took the night off, and we were riding around, and driving around South Beach, I think, just kind of seeing the sights, and then I can't remember if she said it was going to be that weekend or something, but yeah, no, she said it was going to be the end of the day. And the email came through at like 11:30 at night, right under the wire. And I'm flipping out in the car with him, and it seemed really appropriate. I was with my mentor,
Yeah.
he's
It's
been my
perfect.
boss since my first job in kennel all the way through, today. And then I called everybody and woke them all up.
That's awesome.
Hey, Rachel, my wife.
Yeah.
Guess what? My pigtail sprouted. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm always curious about that because I was like,
Yeah.
I must have been a last minute decision. Like, we don't know if we're gonna let this guy in.
Right.
And then the last email went out.
I'm wondering if it was alphabetical though. It's Vidal, Mchenry, or Mchenry.
Oh, no, maybe that was.
Or you just squeaked right.
Right under the wire. No imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So.
Just kidding. Yeah, it's funny to look back at that because the moment where you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it paid off. I'm going.
Man, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
That's really amazing
Yeah.
feeling.
Yep.
So-
And then an hour later, you're like, oh crap.
Yeah,
This
what do I
is
do?
so scary.
Yeah. I actually have to survive.
Yeah.
So you got in, had the big celebration, went crazy.
Yeah.
So your experience was very kind of zoological and then small animal,
Yep. And horses.
and then small animal and horses. And then I know you were very heavy in equine
Yeah.
in school. Okay. So did you have experience with horses when you were a kid? Like what got you into horses? A whole life thing?
Yeah, that's one thing that did start from the beginning was my mom was a horse kid, and so people always joke about like once horses are in your blood, then you can't get them out.
Yeah. I'm trying to avoid that with my daughter.
Yeah, it's an expensive addiction. But yeah, so my mom taught my sisters and me how to ride from, we were barely walking and we were with horses, right? So I always loved them. Just rode for pleasure, like, did trail riding and stuff. Never really got super competitive. I just liked being around them and like riding them. And I love being in a barn. I still love mucking stalls. It's just peaceful. Like I still go to the barn and my horse lives and like, let me just muck her stall. I just want to be here. So I just
For
love
the
that.
uninitiated, what's mucking a stall? Exactly. I mean them, not me. Everybody out there.
Gotcha. Yeah, so picking the poop and pee out of the stall. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Just cleaning?
Just cleaning.
Okay, I assumed that was it. I don't know if there was
Yeah,
more. Okay.
scrubbing their water buckets, maybe other barn chores, sweeping the aisle, all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, cleaning their litter box.
Yeah. And so now you've made a huge transition from being, I think, in school primarily equine to primarily small animal, and with what percentage would you say you do equine stuff now?
Sadly, I think maybe 1%. I very
1%.
rarely do horses at this point.
Okay, it's really just an as-needed thing
Yeah.
for the other doctors that you work with,
Exactly.
or the primary.
Yep. Yeah, I love it, but yeah, sometimes the job, like where I'm working now, I was really lucky that they even had an opening for my time slot because with my husband in the military, we move around a lot. And basically I was only in this area for about 6 months. And it worked out great to where they needed somebody for that time. But they really needed small animal because they're large animal, they're kind of covered. So it worked out fine because I can kind of do both. Yeah, and so if there's a large animal who's on vacation, or one day in particular, I think I might have been telling you this before, the two large animal vets were like in opposite ends of our territory, and there's a really sick horse right near the clinic, so I just grabbed the last truck and went home.
Right.
So
That's nice.
yeah, so I love it because it benefits. Sorry, I feel like I'm yelling.
You're good.
I love it because it benefits the clinic, helps our patients, but at the end of the day, like I like feeling needed, if that makes sense, because we want to help so much. So it's like it's awesome to be able to kind of be that like wild card to help everybody out. I like being that option for them. It's kind of cool.
Awesome. And it breaks up the day sometimes too.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We're doing just room after room after room. Hey, do you mind getting that in the truck? Yes, please.
Right. And there's a Dunkin' Donuts on the way back.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're supposed to say.
They're not a sponsor of this podcast. Not
but
yet.
if they
Dunkin'.
want to.
I love coffee.
Yeah.
And donuts, obviously.
Who doesn't?
So now you guys are going to be moving soon down to Florida from Connecticut.
Yep.
Because of Louis. He's in the Navy.
Yep.
He's getting transferred down here.
You got it. Yep.
Cool. So where do you see the trajectory of your professional life going? I mean, it started off, you've already done this.
Yeah.
Do you have any predictions?
Yeah.
Or goals? Or what
Yeah.
do you feel like going?
I think so. Yeah, good question. Because initially I thought I was going to be doing ambulatory equine my whole life, and maybe dabble in small. That was my goal, and buy into a practice, and eventually either do a partnership or ownership. That was what I saw. If you asked me 3 years ago or 4 years ago.
Right.
But now I've seen life changes and your interests change and things just happen. So I think I definitely would like to eventually be a partner or a co-owner. I admire people like you who can do sole ownership, but I think I'd rather have a partner.
It's yet to be proven that it's going well.
Yeah, right.
6 months in, we'll see.
Yeah.
Crank this whole thing in a year. No.
Right. So,
But thank you.
no, I mean it, but eventually I'd like to be able to do that, be able to mentor, be able to make some of the business decisions and kind of shape practice the way I'd like. But I honestly don't know what species I'm going to end up with. I'd love to do mixed because I found after going from just equine to just small and now mixed, I'm finding I love that variety. And so I'm hoping in mixed practice with maybe right now a focus on small animal and equine. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
But those are kind of rare right now. So,
Oh, absolutely.
unless you come into a practice that's open to expanding one of those roles. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that would
Awesome.
be the dream, but changes.
Yeah. You never know. Well, then you know what we'll do? We'll do this podcast again in the future, and we'll see where you sit.
There you go.
Well,
That'd be
thanks
cool.
for doing it.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to touch on?
There are probably a million things, but
Next time.
yeah, next time. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
cool.
Chapter 1 is done.
That's right.
Yeah.
Officially done.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun.